Let's try a thought experiment this morning. Imagine with me that it was Judas Iscariot in today's gospel reading talking with the resurrected Jesus on the beach instead of Peter. Imagine that after apostatizing and denying Jesus 3 times, it was Peter who went off and ended his life with guilt, and not Judas. And imagine if after Judas had betrayed Jesus with a kiss and a bag of silver coins, he had come back sorry to Jesus and the other disciples, and not Peter. Imagine Judas Iscariot then traveled the world proclaiming the gospel, that he wrote letters of encouragement and correction to the churches. Imagine that it was Judas who ended up arrested, persecuted, and killed for his bold and unwavering faith in following Jesus. Imagine if for centuries the church painted pictures and carved statues of Judas and asked for his intercessions as they sought to live their life like him, while Peter was painted with horns and placed in Dante's Inferno in the center ring of hell as Peter the apostate, the betrayer of Jesus. Imagine that sitting here today at the center of our parish banner, if you can see it, is not a rooster, a symbol of Peter, but a bag of coins, a symbol of Judas. And our beloved church was named after Judas, not Peter. That this church would be named St. Judas Iscariot Episcopal Church. It could have happened. For both Judas and Peter rejected Jesus, betraying him in word and deed. And both were burdened with the guilt of it all. Perhaps you'll remember Jesus' uncomfortable words from last week's gospel. Whoever denies me before others, Jesus says, I will also deny before my Father in heaven. That's Peter. 3 times he denied Jesus before others. 3 times he betrayed him. And yet while Peter went on to be known as the greatest of the apostles, Judas became a symbol of disdain. What then is the difference between Peter and Judas? One of them returned. Today's gospel passage is a story of return, a story of reconciliation. Earlier in this same story, when Jesus had been arrested, Peter sat warming his hands at a fire and denied 3 times that he even knew Jesus. In today's part of the story, Peter sits again at a fire and 3 times at the invitation of Jesus declares his love for Jesus. Peter returned. After Jesus died, Peter returned to his community. After Jesus rose again, Peter returned to the risen Lord. Peter carried with him the grief of what he had done. Indeed, in today's gospel passage, it says that this conversation with the risen Lord was painful to him. But nonetheless, he returned. And because he returned, not only did he find grace and forgiveness in place of retribution, he found renewed purpose and calling. His failure had not disqualified him from being sent by Christ into the world to care for others. Feed my sheep, Jesus tells him. Because Peter returned, it would have been easy for him not to return, which was the choice of Judas Iscariot. It would have been easy to be paralyzed by grief and guilt and greed. It took courage and vulnerability to stand before the Lord that Peter had denied. But he returned. And in the end, that's all that Christ wanted. Sometimes I think we too get bogged down by discouragement. Sometimes we feel deeply the weight of our own failures and inadequacies. Sometimes we want to give up. We tried. It didn't work. In moments like that, we want to stay in bed or run far away or put an end to it all. But Jesus invites us to return, to share a meal with him, to be reconciled to him, to share in the life of community, to receive again the call that he has given us to love our neighbor. And so we return. Why do we have Mass every Sunday? So that we can return. So that after a week of walking through the hardships of this world, we can share a meal with Christ again. Every Sunday we return. And sometimes, like Peter, we're a bit uncomfortable with coming back. Perhaps tired or uninterested, convicted, jaded, overwhelmed, vulnerable at the feet of Jesus. But it is here where we receive time and time again the life of grace he offers. Today is one of our patronal feast days, the feast of St. Peter and St. Paul. And so today we remember, as the people of St. Peter's, that we are also the people of return. So let us renew our commitment to return. And let us thank God that as we return, Christ also returns to us. Amen.